This is a stressful topic in a stressful time. In light of the clusterfucking shit show that is the United States right now, this might be a minority concern. Through the couple of days it has taken me to write and film this, there were a lot of moments where I had to step back, feel my cortisol levels, and check in with myself and make sure that I really wanted to continue, that it was an important thing. But the script got written, the video got made, and so here I am to speak my piece. Quick note, I use the term queer a bunch. It's part of how I identify, and I use it colloquially in this essay to refer to the umbrella of the LGBTQIA plus community. I'm using it as a shorthand for not conforming to majority gender and or sexual identity norms. If queer is a term that upsets you, turn back now, or just, be warned. Hello, Void. We need to talk. Please, 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 stop posting Harry Potter fan art on the internet. Hi, my name is Sid. I'm trans. Normally this channel is a weekly vlog of crafting adventures I've gotten up to into the past week. But in this past week, all I've gotten done is this. And then a few other things happened that inspired this, and now you're getting a video essay. There are a bunch of timecode links in the description box if you want to skip my heartfelt compassion for the Potterhead community and jump straight to the call to action, which, spoiler alert, boils down to reduce JKR's power by not referencing her intellectual property in public. Spend your money how you want to, spend your time how you want to, but be meticulous on your online platforms. Let's dive in. Some facts are these. Through her billions of dollars and 14 million Twitter followers, J.K. Rowling has a lot of power and influence. J.K. Rowling is a TERF. Her rhetoric on Twitter and in the press and in her books is harmful. That rhetoric harms my community and harms the fight for trans rights worldwide. These are facts, not opinions, and not part of the discussion of this video. Here's a quick citation on her transphobia, and there are a couple more links in the description box below under citation 1. I also won't be discussing why I personally don't dig Harry Potter these days. And while I don't now, I used to. I was in my teens when the majority of the books came out, and I have positive memories of searching for the books on release day and devouring them intently. But that passion for Hogwarts and its denizens did not follow me into adulthood. I've watched the movies with friends, but no longer gravitate towards the IP, though I still am in the process of removing mischief managed from my vocabulary. In general, my point of view is from being a member of the general public outside fandom, both the Harry Potter fandom itself and fandom as a social cultural construct at large. I consume social media content specific to creative hobbies, some of which are quite niche, but none of them are fandom focused. This video will discuss my personal understanding of why the Harry Potter books are so beloved, specifically by my age group, roughly speaking, people born between 1980 and 1995. The book's beloved nature feeds into both why JKR has so much power and why the intellectual property is so dear to us, so hard to give up. I'm not a fandom scholar. This is not expert testimony. This might seem like fluffy background, but I think it's important to acknowledge the qualities of the Harry Potter books that make this discussion relevant, and why so many adults, even in their 30s and 40s, still value the books that they ordered from newsprint book catalogs in their childhood bedrooms. After that, I will dive deeper into why it is so important to deplatform JKR and why not posting fan art or fan discussion on the public internet is a crucial part of that effort. I'll touch on some workarounds I've heard and my reactions to those. To jump straight into the analysis, hit up this timecode. Something strange and special happened in the few years surrounding the turn of the millennium. In a lot of anti-JKR conversations, I see alternatives thrown around as, why not this series, why not those stories? We have Harry Potter as our touchstone, not because the publishing industry forced it down our throats, but as soon as it touched our lips, we tasted a relatable story of a modern-day outcast, a downtrodden kid with unexpected powers, a simple social identity framework, approachable whimsy mixed with novelty, characters that grew up as we did, and themes about the power of friendship. Guess what? All of these factors were hugely important in creating a welcoming place, both for kids at large, but especially for young humans who felt like they didn't have a place in our typical consensus reality. I'm going to put a marquee around this bit because it matters a lot to me, and I'll reference it a few times in this essay. Hogwarts was an escape for the queer kids and the neurodivergent kids in particular. They/we needed a place to go outside of school and home and church that would put context on how we felt different and out of step with the world. Double, triple so back in the 90s and early aughts when I can't quite put into words the feeling of growing up different and not being able to understand why. I went through same elementary school for 7 years, same middle school for 2 years, same high school for 4 years, all in the same little town. And throughout all of that common exposure, I came out of high school with one friend that I kept in touch with. I wasn't bullied. People wrote decent things in my yearbook, but I didn't fit in. And back then, the resources and discussions we have today for mental health and for gender identity just did not exist. The Harry Potter fandom was not a refuge for me specifically, but it was for many, many other kids who had similar struggles, who didn't conform to the expectations of society very well. The Harry Potter fandom helped them find each other and gave them common ground outside of their bodies when they didn't have the tools to communicate their deeper truths. Going back to those points of the psychological appeal in detail. Harry Potter had a life of scarcity at the beginning of Book 1. That's not an unusual place to begin a hero's journey. And note that these books are set in what was then modern day instead of a vaguely or even specifically historic setting. Using a contemporary setting tripled the relatability. Harry's not on another planet, he's in our world, in our time, and we could meet him if we could just look past our own muggle blinders. 2. Discovering unexpected magic powers is a classic escapism trope. Struggling kids want to discover the secret that makes things easier for them. Footnote 2 is the TV tropes page for Changeling Fantasy, which lists Harry Potter as a prime example. Similar tropes include rags to riches, rags to royalty, escapist character, really royalty revealed, Moses and the bulrushes switched at birth, and I just want to be special. You can see more examples of these things and how common they are through that. 3. Simple social identity framework. When you're an outcast or you feel like one, it may be because you have mannerisms different from your peers, different habits, different styles of communicating. Quite often, not universally, but quite often when you don't feel naturally socially embraced, you still want to be part of a group, part of a team. For the kids who feel like that, do not underestimate the value of an authority figure looking at you, listening to you, taking your traits, your situations, your whole self into account, and then saying, here is your banner, here are your people, here is where you belong. And the fact that the Sorting Hat isn't a humanoid authority figure makes it even more venerable and infallible and true, especially in the first book. Houses were a good choice for the story for establishing conflict and plot. Houses were also a good framework for the fandom. You're a Ravenclaw, like me. We have this bond together. This section of the message board is for Gryffindors. I have a place to go. And of course, the houses were a good framework for merch. 4. Approachable whimsy mixed with novelty. J.K. Rowling made up some original stuff for the books and adapted many lesser known creatures and stories, but at the very basic level, the books are taking concepts that everyone knew about and put readers in a world where they were real. Witches, wizards, giants, ghosts, werewolves, goblins, flying broomsticks. And a lot of the magic system is as simple and plain-faced as a kid might write themselves, and was easy for them to understand. Learning new jargon and world rules can feel like work in some genre fiction, and some people don't like that. Hogwarts was very familiar in most ways, and very deliberate about gently teaching new things. Harry was ignorant of magic, just like us. Topic accessibility contributed to the wide appeal and the critical mass of kids reading it. 5. Growing up with the characters. 1997 to 2007. And for the first 4 books, each time Harry Potter had a birthday and got a year older, all of his fans did too. Like, going back to summer camp, seeing all your friends from previous years, and then seeing how you've all grown up in between. And this is middle school and high school, when a year or even a summer can change you or your friends a lot. Harry grew up with us. We grew up with him. There was no option to zoom through 7 years of his development in a single month, a single summer, a single year even. He developed and dealt with tougher things over time, and so did we. This was another example of, if we could only pierce this veil cast over us muggles, we could see him. For Americans, he was a pen pal across the pond, as real as the Queen, or even more so. Number 6, themes about teamwork, the power of friendship. If you've watched this far, I probably don't need to explain that to you, but they mattered. So that's my analysis on why the books are powerful, powerful enchantments of escapism and solace. We've stipulated that JKR is a TERF. We've accepted why her intellectual property is so valuable to my generation, especially the queer and neurodivergent people in it. I can't speak personally to the fandom environment, but I have one observation. As Harry was growing up, and as we were growing up and finding our identities, the internet was growing up and developing too. All 3 entities going through growing pains together. See footnote 3 for an essay by Katie Burt on how Harry Potter shaped modern internet fandom. That's enough to bring us to today. J.K. Rowling is immensely powerful and influential. 3 times this year alone, there have been newsworthy flare-ups from her public behavior. What much public? Her 14.5 million followers on Twitter would make up the 5th most populous state in the U.S. Working from bottom up, lumping together low population states, that many people could account for 26 votes in the U.S. Senate, more than a quarter. Countries with smaller populations include Zimbabwe, Rwanda, Burundi, Bolivia. For a more Eurocentric palette, her following is comparable to Denmark, Finland, and Norway combined. She's Ireland times 3, Armenia times 5, or all of Estonia times 10. JKR is an unrepentant transphobe with a huge platform. Harry Potter is in the bones of our culture. What do we do about it? We can't touch her money, and we can't really do anything about her Twitter account. All we have the power to do is show by what we share or don't share on our platforms that thoughts of her are not welcome in our communities. Short version: stop sharing Harry Potter fan art on the internet. Slightly longer version: please, 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 please stop making pies out of the fruit of the poisonous tree. Much longer version: the root of my idea is to deplatform J.K. Rowling in our circles by making her intellectual property unfashionable, untrendy, and not worth discussing in our communities. It's the only way to reduce her power and the impact she has on the trans people of the world. Stop talking about her. Stop talking about her work. Do it to protect your trans followers who feel gross anytime they're reminded that she exists, and might be afraid to tell you that truth. Some trans folks probably really don't care, and maybe the ones that you're close to have successfully put author and art in separate compartments, but that's not a universal position either. Death of the author will be addressed a little later on. You might say, I'm not transphobic like her. I'm a trans ally. I donate to the Trevor Project and to Black Trans Lives Matter. But even if you're an ally, by not publicly ignoring the Potterverse, you are making it okay and easy for people who are TERFs or who are uncertain about their feelings to continue to non-critically consume new Harry Potter content, both fan-made and corporate-made. Every time you post Harry Potter content on Facebook or Instagram, your trans followers are reminded of her and inwardly feel gross, and transphobic or trans apathetic followers are unfazed. Stop perpetuating the fandom. Stop perpetuating it as a culturally relevant intellectual property. Quick note on some of the words and phrases I'm using here, what internet segments I'm focusing on. The actions I'm mostly addressing are from artists and content creators on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube who occasionally or regularly publish content on Harry Potter, Hogwarts, the Four Houses, and all characters that are within. I realize it's a little more complicated for people who make their living, or a lot of their living, selling Potterverse merch. If you need it to survive, please do consider the cultural environment you're enabling, but keep your family fed. This call is first and foremost for the people who do not need the Harry Potter IP to survive to abandon it in public. I don't mean you need to publicly denounce it, just leave it on red and ghost. Who's gonna notice? Talk about other things, craft about other things. I don't care if you keep reading the books and watching the movies. I don't even care that much if you keep crafting in red and gold, but keep it out of craft shows, keep it off the internet. Honestly, I don't even care too much if you keep buying licensed merch. It's your money, it's your home. This is an ask to keep it off of public social media and to keep your feed as a safe place away from associative thoughts of gender essentialism. Tangent. There was chatter a few weeks ago about boycotting the new Harry Potter game. People were saying, but the studio, the people who worked on it. Folks, the studio will be fine. Everyone who put hard work into making that game, whatever qualities it is, have already been paid. Yes, J.K. Rowling has already received the licensing fee, but the point of the boycott is to prove to the studios and all other studios that JKR and her IP are not welcome in the current cultural climate. Move on. Don't buy the game. The video game market is incredibly robust and nobody will go hungry if this specific game does not sell well. The biggest consequence will be studios thinking twice about making another game in that universe. Sounds like a good deal. But again, I don't care if you buy it, I don't care if you play it. I only care if you talk on social media about it. And tangent. Back to fandom creators. A popular response to the turfing of JKR is to call for death of the author, to say, Harry Potter doesn't have an author, the community owns Harry Potter. Lindsay Ellis has a fantastic rebuttal to that here, footnote 4. I watched it back in July, and after watching it again while writing this essay, my whole argument feels a little redundant, but since I'm making a specific ask of a specific population, I carry onward. If you didn't watch that video, the gist is that Harry Potter may not have an author to you, but for many, many people, the IP is inextricably linked to a living person who regularly makes news by saying awful things about me and my friends. She has that power to make news because of Harry Potter, that property you love. She doesn't rocket to stardom in another series and then write Harry Potter. Hogwarts is the source. When she dies and there will never be another tweet insisting that women are the only people who menstruate, I'll care a lot less about this. When JKR is off the internet, no longer being willfully ignorant and flat out wrong to millions of followers, I'll embrace the death of the author and let down my guard against Potterverse chatter. But while she's still out there liking tweets that invalidate my identity, I don't want to hear about fruit from the poisonous tree. Her power is so widespread that journalists will keep reporting on her tweets, so I know that I can't scrub my whole entire life of every mention and memory of JKR and her intellectual property, but I'm asking individuals, especially individuals with large platforms, to make your stream and your new content and your virtual sitting room gathering place a safe place. I've heard 2 specific ideas of how to continue engaging with Harry Potter while still supporting the trans community. I have responses. For monetized YouTubers and sponsored content creators, the idea to donate the proceeds to a trans-supporting charity. Harry Potter content is popular. It's probably a good way to reach outside your local loyal audience and bring in the general public, Potter fans both casual and devoted. The algorithm will love this and remind more people that Harry Potter exists. It will boost the IP, make it go trending, and remind more people of the famous author who says they're not real. Let's release a toxin and see how big the fart cloud gets. Hogwarts is not a place that I feel safe. Why do you want to go to where I don't want to follow? It's not your responsibility to cater to a small segment of your audience all the time, but it's a vulnerable segment. How much is our comfort and safety worth to you? The invisible strings from a single Harry Potter YouTube video reach out, connect consciousnesses, stimulate familiarity and nostalgia, and they wind their way back through the cosmos to increase the influence and perceived stature of J.K. Rowling. Those invisible strings may be incredibly small and thin, but they still exist. They're wisps, but they're real. Tithing. This is a practice of seeing how much you spend on Harry Potter over the years and donating as much or twice as much to trans-supporting nonprofits. Actually, it's not a bad idea, and as I've worked on this essay, it's grown on me. JKR's billionaire status is, to us common folk, essentially unlimited money. Somebody do the math on how many trans organizations would have to lump together to equal an operating budget that large. If it compels you to donate more, be free, enjoy your life. Yes, I'm still concerned about the demand for Harry Potter merch inflating the number of times I hear Slytherin in a given year, either from individuals or corporate marketing teams, but the literal dollars you spend, I give no shits. Chick-fil-A, on the other hand, is nothing but money, food, and bad ideology, so fuck off if you still eat there. But tithers, maybe don't show off your merch haul or post photos from your trip on the internet. Stop validating to the masses that casual, non-critical consumption of the Potterverse is a normal way to exist in the world. Be a fan on your private time. Be a fan with your close friends who practice death of the author with you. Maybe you have a private Facebook group. Just keep it off of public streams. You know all the stories about the gods who die when people stop believing in them? That kind of silence is our best strategy for taking away JKR's influence. Maybe not on her global platform, but at the very least, the power of her constant familiarity in your local online community. Allies, don't keep the fandom so big, so common, so comfortable that people who are not allies and not critical of the toxic people they support can carry on in tepid silence. By crafting about Harry Potter in public, you're holding space for people who are apathetic or non-allies or openly hostile to trans people to continue engaging in JKR's world in a non-critical way, which she will benefit from. Please, 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 please stop breathing life into that world. By offering space for uncritical people, you're denying it to traumatized trans folk. Please be kind to your trans followers who just don't want to think about Harry Potter anymore. It has become a symbol of hostile, harmful, and powerful person. Sid, out. If you are a creator who does Harry Potter fan makes, and you have at least one platform of over 15,000 followers, I issue you a challenge. Do not talk about or craft about the Potterverse on a public social media platform for the duration of 2021. If you avoid publicly engaging with the intellectual property of JKR for the whole 12 months, I will meet you at Wizarding World in Hollywood and with my own money buy you a butterbeer. The money means nothing. It's about the silence. Also, shout out to my friends who helped proofread this essay and those who encouraged me to keep working on it. The courage part of encouragement was very important to me. End transmission.